Welcome to the Skoll World Forum on Social Entrepreneurship. We're coming to you live from Oxford, England. I'm going to be talking to a pioneering thought leader and welcoming questions from you, the Facebook audience. So I'm very delighted and honoured to be introducing Pat Mitchell, and you're director of the Pat Mitchell Institute, and your focus is using media as a tool for change. You do so many things. You host the TED Women's Conference, you sit on a host of boards, Skoll Foundation, Capricorn, Sundance, Acumen, just to name a few. You're chair of the Women's Media Centre, and you were the first woman president of PBS and the president of CNN Productions, responsible for hundreds of hours of specials, winning 35 Emmys, 5 Peabodys. I could go on and on and on.
I'm tired listening, you know.
It's extraordinary. You must feel proud too, though, hey?
You must be old, I think, is the implication.
No, I don't think everybody has achieved what they do in many lifetimes, let alone one lifetime, and a lifetime not yet, you know, with still many more
Still
accolades to
strong,
come.
yes,
Absolutely.
right.
And what's really exciting is that you have just written a book about dangerous women, which is going to be published in the autumn, or shall I say the fall?
October, actually.
In October, okay. And we are, because we're having some fun with drawing, going to be drawing a dangerous woman here. So we have to think about the essential attributes. You can always tell me and I can draw, and I want you to pick up a pen and draw a bit too, as we have a conversation about
It's very
this.
challenging, you know, Emily, but so connecting this to age, about how you're never too old to learn something new.
Yes.
I think I mentioned to you that I totally cannot draw. I have no visual aptitude whatsoever.
But you do know about neuroplasticity and the ability at any age to grow neurons and sparking and connections. So you might today be drawing and be so inspired that you're going to want to do a course in drawing.
You know, I might very well, because my friend Jane Fonda, if I might name drop for a moment, said yesterday something that really resonated with me. She said, of course I'm 81, that's over the hill, but over the hill I'm seeing all kinds of new landscapes. So I thought about that when you challenged me about drawing, and I wanted to say no, and I thought, no, maybe this is a whole new,
and
whole new thing for
do
me.
dangerous women draw.
Okay, well, first of all, she has to have purple hair.
Yeah, that's a good colour, okay.
Yeah, and it has to be wild.
Wild.
Right?
Can I add some as well?
Yeah. Add red in.
Yeah, wild.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got wild hair coming up, and we'll be turning this paper over so we can see.
Okay.
So why is wildness important for a dangerous woman?
Well, bold and brave is really the way I think of dangerous, because dangerous is a loaded word, and, and I certainly don't mean living without fear or either being feared. That's not where I see danger. I see dangerous as a response to dangerous times. And we are living in dangerous times.
And what do you mean by dangerous times?
Rising populism, nationalism, rollback on rights of every kind for almost everyone, and certainly underrepresented populations. And we're seeing it in every country. So that's dangerous. And we just did a panel here at the Skoll World Forum on journalists under siege. And when you look at, more journalists were killed in the line of duty in the last 2 years than ever in the history of journalism. Those are dangerous times. So no matter where you are and what you're doing, there is a sense of vulnerability and fragility that I don't think we have felt in quite some time.
And do you think women are particularly impacted? Do you especially think we need dangerous women, not dangerous men?
Well, we need both, but I particularly think we need to empower women to feel and to act more dangerously, because we have traditionally not taken on those attributes because those have been sort of walled off for us. But in fact, when you look at where change has really happened, especially outside the power paradigm, it happens when it's led by women. But not just, these women have to get there by breaking down a lot of barriers, and then they have to stay there by even doing more, by being braver, bolder, taking risk. So embracing risk is something that women, I feel, are uniquely qualified to do and experienced in doing. But in every part of our lives.
But in a dangerous world, is it safe for women to take risks?
It's never been safe for women. And it's hard to talk about danger when you're working, as I often do, with women who literally are in some of the most dangerous places in the world to be a woman. places like Congo and Syria. And so, yes, but if we're not going to empower them to fight back, if we're not going to support their efforts to resist the dangers, then we're just leaving them. And that's more dangerous.
You're talking very abstract here, as if we're talking about a mythical world. Can you give me some examples to try and make it a bit more reified so we can understand it better?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example from Bukavu in the DRC.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Democratic Republic of Congo, where there has been a war going on for nearly 20 years, a war that the rest of the world pretty much ignores. But the militia have placed that war, taken that war forward on the bodies of women. That is one of the militiamen said recently, raping a woman is a lot cheaper than a Scud missile. And it has even more devastating effects. You go into a community. So these women are constantly vulnerable to the militias coming in, using rape as a weapon of war, destroying the infrastructure, because the infrastructure of a village, its cultural, social, economic life, is often led by women. So you destroy that family structure. Those women didn't just leave their villages, flee them in fear and danger. They stood their ground and they started to work together, both for healing, physical healing, which was necessary, and then when asked, what do you need? So we need a place where we can come together, train ourselves, not just to fight back, self-defense, which is important, but to be prepared to keep the community going, to keep the schools going, whatever it meant. So in that community, there are 1,500 of these women now every 6 months coming through this program and changing life on the ground.
But you calling people out to be more dangerous, what difference can that make?
Well, I think it can make a lot of difference for finding your own sense of what that means in your life. I'm not saying to someone, Emily, you have to go and be more dangerous tomorrow, because you're already a dangerous woman. I mean, that we know. But I am saying to women, it's not a time to be cowed or continue the oppression or suppression, or to pretend that our rights aren't in danger. They are. Reproductive rights in the States are in greater danger than they've been since Roe versus Wade. So we can't just be timid about that and say it's okay. That's what I mean by danger, is finding your own way to going to the front lines and deciding what those front lines are. For some women, it's simply fighting, not simply, it's fighting for equal pay, for equal work. That's dangerous work too, but that's got to be done. So wherever it is, wherever the battle is, not shying away from it, not leaving it for someone else.
And you call yourself a dangerous woman?
And it took some time to get there, by the way.
So tell me about some of what you had to overcome to be truly owning your dangerous skin.
I just wish I had been much more dangerous and much more aware of what was at stake. In the early days in the television business, when we were put into all kinds of categories, facing all the barriers of what we could and could not do, what we should and should not look like, what stories we could and could not cover. If we'd been more dangerous, if we've been more able or willing to take risk, we could have changed things a lot faster.
What could you have personally done had you been dangerous younger?
We did do a couple of things.
You became head of all these organizations.
In 1974, we actually took over a television station in Boston and did 24 hours in which we ran everything.
And that was completely radical, because there were so few women at that point in positions of leadership on the station.
As a matter of fact. But we didn't sustain it because the pressures to step back into safer places, places where we would succeed by playing by the rules, was just too great. And another good example of those times, which extended right until now, is that we were silent about abuses. We didn't report sexual harassment. We didn't report negotiations that were really used, all kinds of sexual...
Like what, for example? Give me some examples just without names, just to give a sense of what the culture is for young people who might not know or can really imagine what it was like then.
Well, I think the power paradigm is pretty much the same as it was then. I mean, the people you had to negotiate for pay raises with, the people you had to negotiate to be able to do a story or to to go to a political convention or anchor the news or whatever it was. Pretty much the same. It's still one gender, one race primarily, in American television certainly. If we had been braver, and most importantly, if we had had coalitions and allyship, which we didn't have, we were encouraged to separate out into our independent turfs and protect them, because there was only going to be one or two places, so you had to hold on. Those alliedships, which started later, and we began to confide in each other, of course we found out that we were all victims of sexual harassment. We were all, when we went in for pay raises, were given all the reasons that we couldn't or didn't deserve one.
And there you were asking for pay raises when most women, or a lot of women, aren't actually asking.
But not asking in a prepared or strategic way, asking in that sort of, don't you think we deserve it? After all, we're doing 3 shows, we're doing 4 jobs instead of 2 that we're being paid to do. But not feeling the strength of numbers, of saying, well, I know my 6 colleagues here are going to stand behind me on this. That's what's changed. Having more numbers in the room has made it possible to embrace more risk. But we still aren't doing it, because if we were, the power paradigm would have shifted.
And numbers,
and it hasn't.
Numbers are also helpful in terms of being more transparent about data, so there's greater awareness of who is being paid what, or how many white guys compared to how many black guys are in the room or working in an organization.
Yeah, and actually we didn't know. Silence and keeping us apart from one another was a strategy that worked really well. But I now look back on that time and I think of all the young women who we could have perhaps saved from abuses. We could have prepared better for negotiating for themselves had we been more together, had we been a more supportive community, and had we ourselves been willing to take more risk. And that's why I feel like now, at 76, it's been a long journey with a lot of mistakes and things that I learned from. Now I'd like to share those experiences so that young women, in particular my grandchildren who are, ages 3 to 22.
Wow, how many grandkids have you got?
13.
13? Wow.
Yeah.
I was so surprised to hear that you had 6 kids.
Yeah, I didn't have them all biologically. I think it's important to point that out. Since people say, where could you possibly have taken that much time off? I never.
But you brought up 6 kids.
Yeah.
You mothered 6 kids.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, and how lucky for me, actually. And now to get to be a grandmother. But part of the motivation for writing the book was really that. I want them to know now the power they have inside themselves to make their own life, number one, and the power they have by allying and reaching out and creating support systems with other women and men. We can't do it alone. No one wants to do it alone. We certainly can't be dangerous alone. We need a lot of help there. And men who stand with us are essential in this group, in this pattern.
So it's quite
change.
exciting. You're kind of reclaiming the word dangerous from being something which is a threat, something we need to fear, as something we need to embrace inside of us.
It's a difficult word. It's a lot like power was 10 years ago. You couldn't talk about power in a women's gathering without women getting extremely uncomfortable. In fact, I myself, even when I was the CEO of a company and somebody described me as powerful, I found myself going, well, not really. But if
Why?
you think,
what was it that made you feel
the media has given us every possible negative stereotype of power, and then when you look at the people who have it and practice it a lot, that doesn't help with the positive image of power. So I had a lot of those negative, complex feelings about it. But again, if I had realized that the power is defined by how much we share it, then I would have been happy to say, yes, indeed I am, because I'm sharing it with this group of people who work with me, or I'm sharing it with this group of people.
So it's kind of liberating your own ego to understand it's not just about you, enables you to be able to feel more motivated to do what you do, knowing that it's a shared enterprise.
I love the way you just described that. And when we began to think about power that way, then we began to embrace it. And that sort of changed everything. Now, and empowered became a kind of shaded word for me too, because people don't need to be empowered. Women in particular find their own way.
Yeah,
to
because
that.
empowered implies somebody's giving it to
doing
you.
it for you. Yes.
So you become a passive participant in a process rather than an active agent driving the change for yourself.
Right. Although I do want to say that in 1999, a wonderful politician in the States named Bella Abzug said something about power that has driven me to a new way of thinking about it. She said, women must change the nature of power rather than being changed by it. So there's our opportunity. And that was the way I was going to approach the journey and sharing the lessons of the journey. But then I felt power had been, we had dove deep and trying to understand ways to redefine power and to change its nature. Dangerous is a new territory. And
I like danger. I like danger because it also implies a bit of, we have a bit of a dangerous woman over here.
Yeah.
And I think she needs to be a bit creative because I think perhaps we need a bit of creativity to be truly dangerous.
Oh yeah, well I call these my special effects.
Your special effects. Tell me about your special. Do you want to add a bit of colour to your special effects?
I do.
Go on.
Yeah. No, I now try and only wear things, by and large, especially these kinds of things.
Yeah, your earrings.
That are made by people I know.
Okay.
Because in doing that, then
That's
I'm
lovely.
carrying them with me. So everywhere I travel or where I work, and I'm grateful to be able to work in a lot of communities in the Global South, and I get to meet the women whose lives are in the beading, whose stories are in the scarves and the paniers and the things they wear and make. So I buy them, not just because I like to purchase with purpose, and I know it goes back to communities to help, but also because when I then put them on in the morning, I'm quite serious about thinking about them as special effects.
Yeah.
Because they give that, sort of like I think they give me a special power.
Yeah, and it's also a bit like things when you're cooking for people you love, or you're making something handmade, and all the love that you're putting into the creation is then enjoyed by the person sort of wearing or consuming or eating or enjoying the product. See, you're getting well into the pictures, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
This is very encouraging. I'm not very good at cooking, though, I have to say. But now that you've opened, I think I'm improving here. I might take up cooking next, too. But yes, it is the same thing. It is when you are, who wants to be dangerous alone? Who wants to eat alone? Who wants to even draw alone? See, we did that together.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, that to me is our greatest hope. For changing what really does feel to me like very dangerous times is that we have to figure out ways that we can do it together. No one single leader or person is going to change this, but changing a whole paradigm of power begins with getting more women into leadership positions, getting more women comfortable,
and people of color and other minorities.
Well, of course, yes, absolutely. People. Well, if that doesn't change, then nothing changes. Everything has to change with the representation of all underrepresented communities,
including older women as well. And you're leading
absolutely
the light there, leading light. Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Pat Mitchell, for sharing your thoughts so generously.
Thank you.
Coming up in 40 minutes, we planning to have some capoeira dancing and design as tool for social change. Very much look forward to meeting you in the conversation in 40 minutes time. And here's our picture.
A dangerous woman.
A dangerous woman. Pat Mitchell. Self-portrait.
I like it.
Great. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Emily.